Okay, the mayor's called the meeting to order. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Here.
Councilmember Calandrillo.
Here.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Here.
Mayor Rigoloso. Okay, we have 5 ayes, which means a quorum is present for this regular meeting of the Garfield City Council, which is being held today, which is Tuesday, August 13th, 2019. This regular meeting is being held in accordance with provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice has been provided by mail, facsimile, and email to the official city newspapers and to other interested parties, and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin boards in City Hall. If everyone would please rise, we'd like to begin with a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone would please remain standing. Normally at these meetings, we talk a little bit about when a past office holder passes away, we normally recognize them. Today, I have the responsibility to announce to the public that we lost Mrs. Perno, who was the spouse of our former police chief, Al Perno. We also lost today Mrs. Visotsky, who is Louis Visotsky's wife. He was a former president and member of our Board of Education. So these men were only able to serve because of these great ladies who backed them up, who were a real force in their lives, and they were a force in our community. So at this time, I would ask for a moment of silence in memory of both Mrs. Perno and Mrs. Visotsky. Thank you.
At this time, is there a motion to approve the minutes to and including July 9th, 2019? Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Joseph Delaney,
Second.
by Councilmember Aaron Delaney. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Abstain.
Councilmember Calandrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4 ayes, 1 abstention. At this time, is there a motion to approve the reports of the cabinet as presented orally and in writing during the work session held earlier this evening?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Aloya, seconded by Councilmember Aaron Delaney. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Aye.
Councilmember Calandrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 ayes. Proceed with resolutions. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Okay. The very first resolution is one approving an agreement with the United Public Service Employees Union of the City of Garfield. It's signed by council members Aaron Delaney, Rigoloso, Calandrillo, and Aloya. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Aye.
Councilmember Calandrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Abstain.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4 ayes, 1 abstention. Okay, resolutions number 221, 2, and including number 226 have signatures of the entire city council on them, so with no objection, we will take one roll call vote on those resolutions. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Aye.
Councilmember Calandrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 ayes. I'm not sure what the pleasure of the council is, but we have a resolution which authorizes a license for vehicle sales business for the year 2019 for A&C Auto Incorporated, 740 River Drive, Garfield. It has signatures of council members Aloya, Calandrillo, Aaron Delaney, and Rigoloso, but. Roll call. Okay, proceed with the roll call, okay. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya,
Aye.
Councilmember Calandrillo,
Yeah, Drew, the reason you're asking is why?
Deputy Mayor Delaney was speaking to me earlier, saying that he might ask that this be held. I wasn't sure of his reasoning.
Okay,
but-
all right, I vote aye.
If you want, I could tell you my reasoning now, is because here we are in September of 2019, and this license hasn't been paid yet. There's no fines on this auto shop. And if everybody knows, I do have a personal gripe with a lot of auto shops in this town right now of the way that they run the business. So I was upset that here we are, we're not going to let this guy pay a fine. He's paying late for his license, and I just don't think it's right. Not only him, but I believe there's other auto shops in town that right now is just taking advantage of the city. That was my reason being, so continue with the roll call.
Okay, Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
I just have, I don't think I voted
Yeah,
yet.
you didn't vote.
Oh, he didn't vote, I'm
Is there
sorry.
anything not in order? that we
Everything is
should-
in order.
So based on what the council, deputy mayor said, the fact that he hasn't paid for his license?
Well, he has paid, but well, I think what the deputy mayor is saying, he's paying, it's August. The license is due in January.
All right,
So he's paid.
as far as you're concerned, everything is in order,
As far as the renewal application is concerned, yes.
and we should proceed.
Correct.
Okay, I vote aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
I understand the frustrations that our deputy mayor is bringing to light this evening. I'm going to vote aye on this resolution, but moving forward, I'd like our city attorney, to explore options of increasing the cost for these applications, potential late fees. I know in other municipalities, there are late fees for multiple licenses. I'm not sure what we can and cannot do in this type of instance, but I would definitely like to hold all of our businesses accountable. We're 8 months into the year. It isn't fair to everyone else that did pay and paid on time. But, I personally don't want to pick one specific business out. So again, with that being said, I vote aye.
Deputy Mayor Delaney.
I
Joseph
stated
Delaney.
my reasons for feeling the way I do before, so I'm voting no on this resolution.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Yeah, just to piggyback what Councilwoman said, like council to look into exploring the cost for late fees for anybody that is late after a certain time. I vote aye on it.
Okay, we have 4 ayes, 1 nay. The resolution is adopted. Resolutions number 228, 2, and including number 235, have signatures of all the council members present, the entire city council. So if there's no objection, we'll take one roll call vote on those resolutions. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Aye.
Councilmember Calendrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 ayes on all those resolutions. We have a resolution authorizing the bidding of the Garfield Water Meter Replacement Program Phase 1. The resolution is signed by Councilmembers Calendrillo, Aaron Delaney, Joseph Delaney, and Rigoloso. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Absolutely no.
Councilmember Calendrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4 ayes, 1 nay. The balance of the resolutions on the agenda have 5 signatures on them. So that is 2 and including number 244. So with no objection, we will take one roll call vote on those resolutions. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Aye.
Councilmember Calendrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 ayes. We have a resolution authorizing the city engineer to conduct environmental testing to assess an area of concern noted and reported to NJDEP at 649-651 River Drive, which reads as follows. Whereas the city of Garfield is in negotiations to acquire 649-651 River Drive, block 110.01, lot 64.02 and 66. And whereas the city wishes to conduct additional environmental testing as part of their due diligence prior to proceeding further with this transaction. Now therefore, be it resolved, the city engineer is hereby authorized to perform additional testing in order to assess the impacts of a currently open environmental area of concern as reported to NJDEP for a total cost not to exceed $20,000. This resolution is signed by council members Aloya, Aaron Delaney, Rigoloso, and Joseph Delaney. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Just point of order, Mr. Attorney, this does not commit us to acquire the property. This only commits us to do the study.
Correct.
I vote aye.
Councilmember Calendrillo.
Yes, I'm going to go along with this. This is a property that we are trying to clear along the riverbank. But I will say this, if it's found to be contaminated more than what we already know, I will not go along with the purchase. I think would be, the purchase would have to be cleanup costs deducted from our purchase price. So I'm going to vote aye for the investigation.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney, Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 ayes. That concludes resolutions. Proceed with bills and
Bills and
claims.
claims,
Okay.
please.
Resolved by the City Council of the City of Garfield that the following bills, number 2186 to 2194, covering Dog Trust Fund and Community Policing Trust Fund and Dedicated Penalty Trust Fire Department totaling $81,665.65, and the trust other totaling $87,424.00, and the current fund reserve totaling $101.00, and the current fund totaling $2,709,057.85, and the water fund totaling $880,495.14, and the general capital fund totaling $840,350.65, and the water capital fund totaling $220,822.96 per attached computer list be ordered paid, and the proper officers are hereby authorized to issue checks for same, provided that there are funds in the respective appropriations. Be it further resolved that the action of the mayor, city clerk, and city treasurer in issuing checks in payment on a ratification list, which includes 47 items prior to the meeting, be ratified. Bills and claims resolution is offered by the entire city council. On the roll call, Councilmember Aloya.
Aye.
Councilmember Calendrillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney. Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 5 ayes. Bills and claims are approved. Proceed with ordinances. Mr.
Ordinance,
Mayor.
please.
Okay, the following entitled ordinance was introduced at a meeting held on June 25th, 2019. It was duly published. Copies were posted on the bulletin boards in City Hall. Copies were made available to the general public, and having complied with the law, this ordinance was not read in full, and the city council can now proceed with the public hearing and final passage. An ordinance of the city of Garfield, an ordinance of the city council of the city of Garfield adopting the redevelopment plan for 99 and 100 Passaic Street, which have been designated as a non-condemnation redevelopment area pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-1 et sec.
On this ordinance and this ordinance only, would anybody like to come up? Remember, if you come up, you will have 3 minutes to speak. The questions will be answered at the end. Anybody would like to come on up on this ordinance? Dolores? We recognize Mrs. Capizzi first. No, Mrs. Capizzi first.
Lawrence Pizzi, 107 Midland Avenue. In reference to this ordinance, I do have a question. We went to the planning board, the last planning board meeting, and there was an agenda, just like you put out, and we followed the agenda. At that meeting, this resolution was supposed to be discussed. Not one item on that public agenda was even addressed. It was only open to the public, with no old business and no new business. As it stands, it was memorialized during the closed session, during the work session. So the public, nothing on that agenda was addressed, so I just want you to know that. But I do have just a comment. The building that's going on Monroe Street is absolutely beautiful. Rather than putting a high-rise, can we use, on Passaic Street, can we use that look that they're doing on Monroe Street, which is really very inviting, very well built. It serves the purpose for what we need, rather than putting a high-rise in the middle of a neighborhood? And I also have two other questions. Why did we only go with a high-density economic developer, economic planner? Why didn't we hear from other people? And with what we're learning from the experiences of other towns, if this Passaic Street high-rise project fails, which of you will be held personally responsible for the negative effect that it's going to have on the community?
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come on up? Please, sir.
James Farias.
Your address, James? James, your address?
Answered my question.
I'm sorry, James, your address?
58 Somerset Street.
Thank you.
None of you has answered my question the last time. I asked you all here if you want a 6-story building in your front yard or backyard. Do you want that when you leave your front door in the morning? Do you want this to be another Hoboken? Do you live here in Garfield? Is that what you really want? Traffic tied up? Why don't you have more police out there? Basically, all the littering that's being done, fine them and have them do community services. We need more cops patrolling on Passaic Street and other areas in Garfield. 3 stories, you can make it beautiful, 3-story buildings up and down Passaic Street. I don't see anything wrong with that. But to have a 6-story building, I know none of you really want that in your backyard. Is that what you really want? Are you being fair to the people here in Garfield? I'd like these questions answered. I mean, this is not fair to any one of these people here. And there's a lot of other people that can't make it because they're working and have kids and families. And I'm speaking in the behalf of many people because they do a lot of walking throughout Garfield, going from house to house, talking with people of Garfield. We have a lot of Polish here, a lot of Spanish. They fixed up these old homes, made them beautiful, and we don't want 6 stories in our front yard or backyard, or anywhere near us where it's going to tie up traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, just a point of order for our attorney. Bob, when we're having a hearing, is there anything that is different than if we're hearing comments from the public at the end of our meeting as far as being able to address and answer and have dialogue? Or is it the same format? Because I've never had public hearings where we just have to
Well,
not.
when it comes down to the
Well, I'm just
vote-
asking, is there a difference?
I know, but when
Maybe
it
I'm
comes down to
wrong.
vote, you can always comment on whatever they said.
All right,
This
but
is
just
the
from our,
procedure that we've been
Yes.
following, so the mayor.
all right,
put in
but
place.
this is in order then.
Pardon me?
In your opinion, this is in order.
It's not out of order, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else would like to come up? Mrs. Raymond?
Good evening, William Polcari, 5 Maitland Place. It's my understanding that these 100 apartments are gonna be luxury apartments.
Yes.
Is that what's happening on, what they're building in Woodridge? All of those apartments, the vacancies are getting filled up with Section 8s and low income. I think your idea might be good if you toned it down a little, but to put 100 units there, where are people gonna park? You're 100 yards from the railroad tracks. You're gonna really, attract the, upper mobile clientele there?
Well,
all I got to
yeah,
say.
okay. Thank you, William.
Kevin, could you raise the mic for me once again? Good evening. Thank you for the chance of speaking. Although some of you claim nobody walks on Passaic Street, I happen to know because I live on the corner of Passaic Street. And since the Walmart Center has been built, people are constantly driving and walking up and down Passaic Street. So maybe you have to open your eyes to see that it's not what you think it is, it's what it really is. I have several questions. How many parking spaces are there between Marcellus Place and the railroad? There are apartment houses, homes, and there are only 16 parking spaces, including the west side of Midland Avenue, Passaic Street. 16. This proposal, as we hear it, says that everyone, each unit would be entitled to 1 parking space. Do we believe that those who will be residents will have only 1 car? The city has said for parking permits, each permit would allow 5 vehicles. Where are we going to put them? No place. It's a pie in the sky, it's a dream, and it's not real. And it's offensive to we who live in this area and want to save South Garfield. We don't need apartments of that size. I lived on the 9th floor of a housing project in the city of Newark for 9 years. I know what high-rises are like and what they produce. This would be somewhat different because you're trying to attract others who would be able to commute. What about those who are already here? 16 parking spaces, 3 intersections between Midland, the railroad, and Marcellus Place. Where are you going to put other people? I've been here 18 years. My problem has been in Garfield seems to be parking lots between schools, ticketing people in our own parish, and now this proposal. I would ask you to really think in terms of the negative effects that it will have on our community. For those who we don't even know who they are, those who are here, we have to care for. Thank you.
Mike Dennis Strand, 104 Palisade Ave. This project, I'll be honest with you, is not common sense. Not common sense at all. Anybody who votes for this is insane. I said it before, I'll say it again. People like in Allendale, they have common sense. They wanted to put up a 3-story building right near the train station over there, and a fireman came to their aid. The fire chief, the assistant fire chief, and the fire official too. Where that area doesn't have enough square footage to put a fire lane around the building. Like Walmart's got a huge fire lane around the building. And you're bypassing safety. You shouldn't bypass safety. You're bypassing the zoning board. And people are dying in houses. I don't care what the best fire equipment you got, they die from smoke. They're dead before the fire even hits them. Like I say, even in towns like Wyckoff, they use common sense. They don't want to put 6-story buildings up. Affordable housing, right in Boulder Run, right on top. You can't even tell that it's there, right? This is all about greed. This is all about greed. This is about how much money we could bring into the town, this and that. It's not about what the neighborhood wants. It's about what you want. That's all I got to say as far as that's concerned. But like I said, it's insane. You know, you're bypassing all, it's not gonna, everything is against this. The traffic, the infrastructure, even the train tracks. I've been watching what they're doing over there. That paint job is just a cover-up. It's 120 years old. You got a heavy freight train that comes through there, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, carrying crude and heavy gondolas and everything like that. You're just asking for trouble, especially putting people in a close proximity of these dangers, right? And I say to you, I plead to you again, not to vote for this, because, just like I said, this town, Allendale, is using common sense. We're not using common sense. We're using, it's all about greed. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to come up? Ms. Raymond?
Raymond, 93 Spring Street. I don't really know that much about this project, but I know there's a lot of talk around town that I hear through my son's office. People are not in favor of this. That's a heavily populated area. It's very dense. I understand redevelopment. Redevelopment's a good thing. But you have to be careful where you put it. Now, when we did the Sketchley property, that was supposed to be like a transit station. We figured people were gonna be taking the train. That's not happening. If you go through there during the day, there's no cars in the parking lot, so they could walk right to the train station. So those are not transient people that are using the New York train that live there. And the same thing's gonna happen here. Who is going to pay $2,000 a month to live on Passaic Street where you can open up your windows and smell the transfer station in the summer? It's a disgrace down there. It's not a good location. I'm sure if you look, there's probably other places you could do redevelopment. Redevelopment is a good thing, but not in an area like that. And you know, it's almost pitiful to have to see Monsignor come up here and speak, and all these people. I mean, did you meet with the people in that area? Have you spoken to them about their concerns before you? I know this is only the beginning, but we all know there's gonna be votes here to pass this tonight. So, you know, I don't really think that's fair. I think you should have met with the residents, talked about it, got their concerns, and maybe you could have modified the plan or found a different spot. But to put this through tonight, I think is the wrong thing. It's my opinion, and I'm giving it to you, whether you want it or not. I think it's the wrong thing to do, and I would encourage you not to vote for this tonight. Thank you.
My name is Joan Brandis, 20 Hepworth Place. So concerning the development on Safe Street, I know, Mayor, you mentioned that you met with us 3 to 4 times. Thank you. And you also mentioned that you met with another group. And I don't know if you're saying they're against this development or I know we're not against a development, but where are those people that you were speaking, the other group you were speaking with? I haven't heard any, I mean, I don't know, you mentioned another group that you spoke with that are in favor of this development, and I'm just wondering where and who they are. But concerning this development off the Passaic Street, if this was presented, like Mr. Dennis Strand said, in any other town, similar size to Garfield, it would have been defeated on the outset. Not later on, there's going to be other meetings. Mr. Dutch, I know you explained that the public will have other opportunities to speak, but I'm beginning to lose faith. Why? No one is listening now. No one is listening to, why would anyone listen to the citizens later on? This is the time to reject the plan, not at another meeting, not at another meeting, and at another meeting. This should have gone through the zoning board. This shouldn't have gone through a study in an area in need of redevelopment. This should have gone directly to the zoning board. I know you said that the landowners went to the redevelopment agency, but it really should have been done that way. And I see there's going to be other studies like this too, that Garfield is paying for. No one is really explaining the future that you have planned for Garfield and for the rest of Passaic Street and the rest of Garfield. You really haven't said the future that you have planned. Mayor, you said that people are saying they don't want change. I haven't heard anyone come up here and say, we don't want change. I haven't heard anyone say that, and I haven't met anyone who says that. People want change if it's done the right way. 105 units on less than 1/2 acre is not the right way. There's an elementary school 1 block away. And I haven't heard, the mayor, you're principal of the school, a little concerned for, gee, there's a school, elementary school, on a major street, a state street, which has a lot of traffic. And now we're going to bring in another 105 to possibly 210 cars with an elementary school 1 block away. This is not being done the right way. And Mayor, I also agree with your vision of Garfield. You said at the last meeting to build a better community. But a community is built with neighborhoods, with ownership. Neighborhood and ownership, not rentals.
Good evening, gentlemen. Jesus Rodriguez, 149 Midland Avenue. Since I'm affected by that area, because they are my neighbors, the way I want to echo what Tanner Raymond mentioned regarding the parking, I'm echo everything that they said. Now, we have school number 6. We have the new school also, the new school by Passaic. And between two schools, we're building in Monroe Street. Nice. That looks good. I'm not against redevelopment. Now you guys want to build there too? And in the middle of all this, there's a transfer station that stinks every day from this summer. Why we don't condemn that? Mr. Boswell, I spoke to you 4 years ago. I asked you, are we doing something with this transfer station? Yeah, we're working on it. 4 years. What's going on? Stinks very bad. I made some phone calls. The lady who's new at the clinic, she didn't even knew there was a transfer station in there. How's that? Why we don't condemn that transfer station? What's the issue here with that? And then you could build a village right next to the train station so people could jump from the apartments and get on the train to the city. Simple, guys. I'm not against redevelopment, but let's be smart. Let's do the right thing. We have too many people. We have no parking. And then we paying for these stickers, residential stickers. And now you're going to develop a building, and the tenants, they're not going to pay for nothing because they're going to have their own parking. Is that the way it's going to be? Not acceptable, guys. Thank you so much. That's all I got to say.
Anyone else would like to come on up?
Marianne Waxman, 46 Spencer Place, lifelong resident of Spencer Place. My grandparents bought the house, my parents have lived there, we lived there all our lives. And one of the previous meetings, the answer was, where are people gonna park? Go to Spencer Place. And, I hate to use the word, but it was probably the dumbest response I ever heard. Joe, you grew up in this area, first ward. Okay, you're in the third ward, but you know the first ward. Well, your friends live there. You know how congested it is. Right? And we're gonna put 100 plus parking places in there instead of telling people, go on Spencer Place. There isn't any parking on Passaic Street, you know that's not there. It's not on Spencer Place either. I work night shift. I can work evening shifts. I come home, sometimes 2 blocks away, no matter what time it is. I can't even park in my house. You can't park in Spencer Savings anymore. They won't let you. So where am I supposed to park? Where's anybody in that neighborhood supposed to park? I mean, nobody in that area is against redevelopment. People who are lifelong residents in that area, they're not intending on moving. I'm not intending on moving. But you're gonna force the people out that live there all their lives. It's just, you gotta think of what you're doing. Do something, but do the right thing for the people that live there and giving everything to this city all their lives. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to come up and speak? At this time, I don't see any hands. I'm opening up to council comments.
Thank you, Mayor.
Vote, I'm sorry.
Roll call?
Roll
Okay,
call.
roll call on this ordinance. Councilmember Aloya.
Okay, before I vote, just a couple of points that I'd like to make to justify my vote. One, if you're building luxury apartments, they obviously have the wherewithal to buy more than one car. So parking definitely is an issue. Ownership, I think that's the key question. The one thing we're missing in Garfield today is the fact that we had 60 or 70% absentee landlords. We need ownership. This doesn't create ownership. This just creates 100 more people that aren't going to join our fire department, that aren't going to join the clubs, that aren't going to join the church, that because they're only here for 12 months. They're going to move when they get a better deal. We need ownership. We need people to say, all right, I'm going to be here for the next 30 years. I bought a house. I have a mortgage. I'll send my kids to the school. I'll join the church. I'll join the Holy Name Society. I'll become a fireman, because those things take long term to become part of. This type of redevelopment doesn't create ownership. It doesn't do anything for us. Obviously, with the luxury apartments, if they have the luxury apartments, they have the ability to buy more than one car, so the parking is woefully inadequate. It's two buildings that I don't see are in need of redevelopment. I've asked the council to review numbers of pieces of property over the years that are abandoned pieces of property that we should be acquiring. That's where we should be spending our money, not on these two buildings. They were not in need of redevelopment at all. Then to afford the developer a tax advantage by actually creating a pilot for this property. So what are we getting? What is it that we, the city, gain on a mutual effort? That's what we all look at it when you look at building a house. Well, okay, you're gonna fix up your house, that's really great. The city's gonna increase your taxes, because you fixed the house, but we share mutually in that. We use that money to buy the fire trucks, to buy the police cars, to buy the road, to fix the roads, to do the things that we mutually share. Here, what's the advantage? We're gonna have 105 potential tenants come in, which is great, no disrespect to tenantship, but if it's a luxury apartment, they're gonna have the wherewithal to spend money in town, maybe. Taxes don't give you a maybe. Taxes make you a partner in the community. 105 non-partners. That's all we're gaining. I think they could do a better job at creating it. The traffic issue is going to be a significance. And oh, by the way, no, I don't want a 6-story building next to my building. Trust me, there are people who don't want my 3-story building in their neighborhood. So it's just that we need to have development that creates commitment. When we worked very, very hard, and we had lots of arguments and lots of fights and lots of people here when we discussed the development of where Walmart and the whole development there in Venado. But we didn't want companies that weren't going to say, we're staying for the long term. I think that's what makes a development work. When the occupants that are there are here for a long term. I don't see this as being a long-term commitment project. I vote no.
Councilman?
Councilmember Calandrillo.
Yes, first of all, in answer to your question, no, I would not want to be next to a 6-story building. In fact, I don't know of too many 6-story buildings in Garfield except for the Garfield High Rise, senior citizens, which there's a need for seniors. It's a federal building, federal project. Dolores, you mentioned something about the project, the units going up on Monroe Street. Let me just give you a little comparison. That's a project of 20 units, went to the zoning board on approximately 2/3 of an acre. Zoning board awarded them 20 units. Now we're going to less than a half of an acre. And this study says 105 units. Where are we going? Where is this town going? In the long run, we say, well, we represent 32,000 people. I heard a council person say at a previous meeting. Yes, we do. But out of the people I talk to, when they hear what's going on, I haven't heard one person say, that's a good idea. So I wish we could do more of that. One spot per unit. Think about it. Monsignor is so right. Count the spots. You could probably count the spots on both of your hands that exist in that area. Spencer Place, you can't find a spot for nothing. We talk about quality of life. What kind of quality of life are we giving these people in that area? And this is not just the end point. This is the starting point. This is something that a developer will come in, sure, they'll build, they'll drive those stakes into the ground, and they'll pound those piles, Mr. Boswell, to build something like that, 6 stories. They have to have these pile drivers go into the ground, right? To support 6 stories?
It very likely could.
All right, much like what I seen in Hackensack. Day on day, driving. I mean, for a 3-story building at the police station, I heard that for almost a month. Okay? So now we're gonna go 6-story. And I don't mind the police station, because that's for the entire city. It's for our safety, for eternity, pretty much. But what's gonna happen here, we're looking at density, we're looking at an impact on the people's lives there, that look, I think you're gonna devalue every property on that side street. People aren't gonna be able to park, they're not gonna be able to go nowhere. Greater Bergen, Mr. Dutch, you're the director of the redevelopment. Is that the same Greater Bergen that the Board of Education is leasing a school at the old Rhea complex?
Yes, Mr. Calandrella.
Okay. So on that study that we had, it said that they weren't paying any taxes 2018 and going forward. When that's developed, do they still remain tax exempt if they have ownership?
I don't know that.
Because on the study, if you look at the study that we were presented, 2018, 0 tax. So, just wondering. You know, how do we go through with a study like this, not knowing that if they put 50 units, 45 units, 55 units, do they fall under a tax exemption? I haven't heard anything about a pilot, Lou, because I'm trying to really wrap my arms around this, and once I hear pilot, then that's another day and another argument. Is there a pilot that's already in place?
No.
Okay.
The mayor and council would need to vote on a pilot. That would have to happen first.
Well,
Additionally, in terms of Greater Bergen was designated by this governing body as the master redeveloper of the site. That does not necessarily mean that they would develop the site. What that means is that they are charged with going out and soliciting among developers, known developers in other communities and in other redevelopment projects to determine who would be best
But they
suited
do own the
to
building.
build in Garfield.
Currently, they own the building that
They currently own
Mr.
one of the-
Randazzo sold to them.
They currently own one of
And
the
that's why they're not
properties.
paying taxes.
Yes, that's
All
correct.
right, all right. So they may not be the developer, but they could very well be the property owner, hypothetically. I'm just going by what we have in front of us. It was said about, one taxpayer came up and said 6 stories. Deputy Mayor says, no one said anything about 6 stories. Oh, yes, they did, Joe. The planner said it at the planning board meeting, 6 stories. So there's denial up here. Once we proceed, this thing is going to be concrete. There's nothing that can happen. We could tweak it. We could go to the planning board at the end after the redevelopment authority gets it and see where that goes. But the planning board's not going to be able to create property. They're not going to be able to create parking spots. It is what it is. And if we could do 2/3 of an acre with 20 units on Monroe Street and hear a resident say that looks pretty good, cleaning it up, how do we go to 105 units on these 2 properties? It's wrong. You know what? I've been saying it. A developer will go in, He'll build what he wants to build. Look, the value of that half an acre, both sides, increases tremendously by the more units that they're allowed to build. You know, if you have a 50 by 100 house, you could build a two-family. But if you're given the right on that 50 by 100 to put a four-family or a five-family, your value doubles, if not triples. So you think about it in those type of terms. Why are we doing this? You know, we talk about increasing the economy on Passaic Street. Well, guess what? We could probably do that by getting a parking lot, by giving these businesses that want to invest, like a Mr. Cupcakes, giving them the proper parking. I will support that any day of the week. But to say we're going to create crazy density just so they could patronize the stores and that they're going to spend $1,500 a year on the stores, that's not going to solve our problems. And then we hear, oh, there's crime on Passaic Street. Well, guess what? There's crime no matter what your pocket says. Whether you're paying $2,000 a month rent or you're paying $800 a month rent. You know, to say that that's not going to solve all the problems of Garfield by blessing these two properties. And I have some serious issues, as you have just heard. And not also, I would like to know if we have school administrators on boards that vote on this, and I wonder if there's a conflict, since they deal with this Greater Bergen on, I believe they give the schools free rent at this point. You know, is there a conflict? I'm not saying there is, but I would like an opinion. And if, Bob, if you can't get us an opinion, then let's go to the state.
I can give you an opinion. I don't see any conflict.
Well, what is my question?
Your question is, can the school administrator, which I believe you mean the mayor,
No, I'm saying sorry, see, Bob, first listen to the question before you
Okay, go ahead.
rush to.
I'm
I want a written opinion that, are there any conflicts from anyone who has supported this redevelopment plan going forward? And I'm not making any accusations. I just want to have everything on the table.
you want to know if anybody who has supported this has a conflict?
Well, I understand that we get free rent in the last year or so, our schools do, from Greater Bergen,
Free rent for where?
for one of our schools.
Which school?
No.
So basically, why don't we do this? Give me the opinion that there's no conflicts of interest. How's that? Okay? And then I'll be satisfied. Going forward, I think revitalization is our way to go. Not to mention, I know we talk about Sketchley. Sketchley is a development that they were at 75 units. 75 units at Sketchley, but they didn't start there. We have our mayor, that was the mayor at the time, and we worked and to get those numbers down back then. Otherwise, we would have had an outrageous number of units on the Sketchley property. That's not the case. Regardless, I understand that project's going up for $25 million. Okay? So the project's already up for sale. And God bless those guys, whatever they do, that's up to them. But I'm just saying, this is what developers are going to be here for. Now, I understand Mr. Dutch said that if we get the opportunity zone by the end of December, they have to be in the project for 7 years. Okay, but down the line, even after 7 years, they move on. The city of Garfield continues to have the problems with the parking and the overcongestion and the high density from that point. So with everything being said, there's no way I could support something like this, and I seriously am concerned about the future of those neighborhoods. And then the planner also mentioned that going down, there's going to be possibly a couple of hundred units more. So if we continue that and we go down, what's Passaic Street going to look like, without the parking? It's going to be it may be nice to drive by, but how are people gonna live? So I vote no.
Okay, Counts,
We're not opened up to comments right now.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Yes, I'm going to be short with my comments at this point. For this meeting, the applicant has to go through an extensive process where the plans will need to be approved, and my position honestly hasn't wavered since the beginning on this, nor has my opinion. I understand everyone's concerns with littering, more police, parking, and it's something that I will definitely continue to keep in the back of my mind. But at this point, I've mentioned in other meetings, redevelopment's been talked about and redevelopment plans have been talked about for over 20 years. It's time to stop planning and start doing. I'm 28 years old and I want to see this city move forward. And, you know, I know a lot of people will disagree, but I want to be.
You didn't say, you didn't tell us whether you want 6 doors in your front yard.
I'm sorry. We
I would have no
James, we gave
problem
you the
living next
respect.
door to a building like that. I would have no problem living next door to a building like that. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Okay. Maybe I will. And actually, you're not listening, sir. I listen to you up here.
James,
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna ask you to, I'm gonna
I'm
ask
an
you to
idiot
leave
with a
now,
master's
James.
degree.
We're gonna ask him to leave.
Yeah.
You have to leave. You have to leave right now. No, I'm doing that. James, please.
Anna, you're not
please,
helping the situation right now
Please,
either.
James, also, we're gonna have to call the police.
He just called a council member an idiot, Tanner.
Nope. We
I
could
didn't say for him to
disagree.
leave.
We could disagree, but we're not gonna call no one names.
You know what? My vote here this evening isn't to win votes. I'm not up here to make a career out of being a politician. I have my own career. I have my own education. I base my opinion on what I think is going to be the best for the majority of the 32,000 residents in our city. Okay. You know what? And Mr. Calandrillo said he hasn't heard that one person thought this was a good idea. I know at the last meeting, we had someone here who has a booming, thriving business in the city of Garfield. And you know what he did? After hearing some of these plans and wanting to be a part of this redevelopment, he went and bought a second location in that area of Passaic Street. He invested his own money to do that because he believes in a project like this, and he has faith. He's not looking at the negatives of things. He wants to see progress, and so do I. So with that being said, I'm not even going to continue on with my comments because I can't get a word out. I vote yes very proudly.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
You know, just quickly, within the last month, all right, just tonight, we spent $1.2 million on water meter replacement. All right, we said okay to fire company number one getting $1 million truck. That's $2.2 million right there. We're talking about Fleischer's Brook. How much money is Fleischer's Brook going to take to get repaired altogether, Kev?
$150,000?
No, I'm talking about the whole brook where it's falling down on Market
Oh,
Street.
we don't
and
have
everything.
the estimate.
All right, but you're talking millions of
Millions.
dollars. You know, you're talking about stairs on Sly Street for hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is money that the city is putting out. And if we don't have redevelopment, you know what? Taxes going to go skyrocketing, and then we're going to have to hear about taxes going up. The only way we could keep taxes lower is through redevelopment. For example, Walnut Street, which is Sketchley property, which has 74 units in it. 74 units in Sketchley property. When they first got it, 2013, we collected $11,000. 2014, we collected $7,000. Estimated for 2020, $433,000. Now, that project is right next to a preschool, to Muscarelli Nursery School. There's 75 units there. We didn't have not one problem with traffic there. So I don't want to hear about it being next to a school over here, We didn't have one problem on Sly Street with regards to being parked next to a school. And also, for 10 years, I listened to certain council members up here say the same thing about that project, about the parking, the school crowding, the density. that held our project up for 10 years. So instead of getting $11,000 in 2013, we could have been getting $400,000 a year there. You know, I heard it's a great project, but it's scare tactics that some people use not to look into the future. You know, it's not right. Redevelopment on Walnut Tree is a good thing, and there's no reason why it can't happen on Passaic Street. I've heard complaints about the brand-new school being built, number 10 school. You know, okay, yeah, maybe there's not a lot of parking, but you know what we have? We have a brand-new school for those kids that live in that neighborhood. You tell me how important is that to have a brand-new school for the kids who live in that neighborhood? If I'm wrong, then, I'm sorry, but to the kids to have a new school, I think that was the right thing to do. I'm looking at Passaic Street has a kickstart. You know, the city of Garfield, 6 months ago, we were voted the worst place to live in Bergen County. You know, I don't agree with that, because I know what Garfield has, but we have to change. We have to change the attitude. We have to change the perception of Garfield, and it starts with redevelopment, of course, and then I vote aye. That's not.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Okay, I understand the emotions behind all this. It's very emotional. People are afraid of changes. People are afraid of changes. You know, unfortunately, when we were talking about value, you know, the first ward, there's parts of the first ward that sit in a contaminated area. I do sit with the residents. I do talk to the residents. I talk to South Garfield. I talk to residents that are away from the Passaic Street area, and their home values are down because their neighbor is sitting in a contaminated house. So because that house is contaminated, their value's down. They look forward to the redevelopment of Passaic Street. They look forward because they're looking for any type of value to increase their homes. So, you know, you got part of that neighborhood that's sitting in a contaminated area. You know, it is our responsibility to try to increase the values in that area. When you walk down Passaic Street, once you get past Jamburger, there are 4 storefronts closed up. You know, when you walk on down a little farther, there's a couple more. There's half of the stores on Passaic Street are closed. So redevelopment has to happen because that's the only way you're going to get it. Parking's going to come. See, that's the issue. If we said there was going to be 200 parking spots, will everybody be complaining about a 6-story or 100 units or 5 stories? See, that becomes the issue. Parking will come. You know, we need redevelopment because if it doesn't happen, you lose the train station, and then Passaic Street is Passaic Street. Monsignor, you came up here and said people are walking up and down Passaic Street. Yeah, they are, but they're not shopping because half the stores are closed. Mr. Cupcakes made $700 one month. $700. Okay? And everybody needs parking, and parking's going to come. By law, they're allowed to have 1 parking spot. It will come through redevelopment. That's the issue, but I get it, I understand it, but we need to move forward. If this town's going to survive, if that area is going to survive, for the residents that don't live on Passaic Street are going to survive, then, you know, we need redevelopment. There are people whose block is in a contaminated area. You know, they don't want to come here because they're always the minority group where their voice is not heard. They get shut down, they get booed, they get yelled at. They don't want to come here. There may be 1 or 2 residents who are willing to stand up, but most of them are afraid to show up. So, at the end of the day, redevelopment needs to happen. I vote aye.
Okay, we have 3 ayes, 2 nays. The ordinance is adopted. Proceed with next
Yes.
ordinance. The following entitled ordinance was introduced at a meeting held on July 9th, 2019. It was duly published. Copies were posted on the bulletin boards in City Hall. Copies were made available to the general public. And having complied with the law, this ordinance was not read in full, and the City Council can now proceed with the public hearing and final passage. An ordinance to amend and revise Chapter 146 of the City Code of the City of Garfield entitled Flood Damage Prevention.
Yeah, and this ordinance only, would anybody like to come up and speak? I see no hands.
He sees no hands.
No, go ahead.
Okay. On second reading, final adoption, Councilmember Aloya.
Abstain.
Abstain. Councilmember Calandrillo.
Drew, this is the, let me see, what number or,
Flood damage prevention ordinance. Did I go out of sequence?
Tom?
No, you're right.
This is the ordinance that's required in order for us to qualify under FEMA and to get our flood control program back into effect. As long as we start doing some of the things that are required by the ordinance, we received an extensive questionnaire today from the state. We will be able to assist our residents in lowering their flood insurance. That's our ultimate goal.
I vote
This
aye.
ordinance is
Thank you.
required by FEMA. Thank you.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4 ayes, 1 abstention. The ordinance is adopted. The following entitled ordinance was introduced at a meeting held on July 9th, 2019. It was duly published. Copies were posted on the bulletin boards at City Hall. Copies were made available to the general public, and having complied with the law, this ordinance was not read in full, and the City Council can now proceed with the public hearing and final passage. Bond ordinance to authorize the acquisition of a new pumper fire engine, including original apparatus and equipment in, by, and for the City of Garfield in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $925,000 to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
On this ordinance and this ordinance only, would anybody like to come up and speak? I see no hands.
Okay, on second reading, final adoption, Councilmember Aloya.
Just as clarification, I was absent at the last meeting, so the ordinances that I did not read, I feel obligated to abstain from. I read the ordinance, I vote aye.
Councilmember Calandrillo.
yes, first of all, I want to thank the firefighters of company number one. They came to our council meeting, they've been kind of keeping us in the loop going forward. They do need a fire truck replacement. We have our former deputy mayor, who's very involved, Glenn Matty, and so he knows what it's like as far as what we're looking at as far as costs, and they're working with the city council very well, so I will vote aye.
Councilmember Aaron Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
Again, this is one of the reasons why I just stated why we need redevelopment, to pay for certain things such as this, for the safety and well-being of our fire department, for the citizens of Garfield. We're speaking $1 million here. That's not a small amount of money. That's a lot of money. But it's a well-deserved truck that they do need for the safety in the city. I vote aye.
Mayor Rigoloso.
I vote aye.
Okay, we have 5 ayes. The ordinance is adopted. The following entitled ordinance was introduced at a meeting held July 9th, 2019. It was duly published. Copies were posted on bulletin boards in City Hall. Copies were made available to the general public, and having complied with the law, this ordinance was not read in full, and the City Council can now proceed with the public hearing and final passage. An ordinance to amend Chapter 201-20 of the City Code of the City of Garfield entitled Receptacles for Litter, and Chapter 201-21 of the City Code of the City of Garfield entitled Enforcement Officials.
On this ordinance and this ordinance only, would anybody like to speak? I see no hands.
Mayor, can we have a description for the public of what this is about, please?
This is which one?
This one.
This is for receptacles outside of storefronts, Tom.
Yeah, you want to go?
It's just an ordinance so that certain stores such as CVS gotta have receptacles, trash receptacles outside their property. To clean up the city. That's it.
Okay, on the
Would you
roll
like to
call.
say something? Go ahead. We got somebody wants.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Jennifer, 128 Willard Street. I like this ordinance.
I'm sorry, Jennifer who? I can't hear because of coughing.
Yes, he needs your last name and address.
Jennifer Lopez, 128 Willard Street. Regarding this thing, I know that you are saying that specifically CVS is.
No, all stores, not, I just
All
used
stores.
that as an example. I'm
Okay, now
sorry.
is it possible to actually put this Passaic Street, for example? I live on Willard, all around my block, I don't live far from CVS. You know, we have Midland Ave, but throughout the city, it's very filthy.
And I don't think that it should just be the businesses that have these receptacles, but more throughout the city. I recently came from a country where you see it on every block, and the streets are beautiful because there's no garbage, because people have a place to put their garbage. So maybe it's possible moving forward to not just exclude other streets. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else would like to come up and speak? Okay.
Okay, on second reading, final adoption, Councilmember Aloya.
Yes.
Councilmember Calangelo.
Yes, Mayor, I just want to point out a point of order. There was other ordinances, and we had no dialogue yet. This one we did. So if we could keep everything consistent, I vote aye on this.
I'm sorry. We did ask the audience, the residents to come up and speak, and there were no hands on the other ordinances.
No, I'm talking about the original ordinance with the 100 Passaic Street. There was no dialogue back and forth, where we just had dialogue back and forth.
So noted.
Councilmember Erin Delaney.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney. Aye. Mayor Rigoloso.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jennifer. There should be more garbage cans. Not just use CVS, because last time we said CVS, they said there were garbage cans out in front of CVS. There's no garbage cans out in front of CVS at all. And they're a chain store, but every store that has any kind of selling products, they should have some type of garbage out there. So I do vote yes.
Okay, we have 5 ayes, the ordinance is adopted. The following entitled ordinance was introduced at a meeting held on July 9th, 2019. It was duly published. Copies were posted on the bulletin boards in City Hall. Copies were made available to the general public, and having complied with the law, this ordinance was not read in full, and the City Council can now proceed with the public hearing and final passage. An ordinance of the City of Garfield creating a new chapter 239 of the Garfield City Code to be entitled Plastic Bag and Straw Regulations.
On this ordinance and this ordinance alone, would anybody like to come up and speak?
Ed Devine, 159 Market. I don't feel this ordinance goes far enough. I don't understand why styrofoam is not involved in this. Styrofoam takes 500 years in a landfill to go away. We have all these stores around here selling hot food, styrofoam containers all over the place, styrofoam coffee cups all over the place. We don't have any sea turtles, no loggerhead turtles in plastic bags here in Garfield. But we have plenty of styrofoam containers all over the streets. Ms. Delaney, I know we've spoke about this. Is it possible to, or too late at this point, to get that in there?
Well, let's answer this. Thank you. Anyone else would like to come up and speak? All right, I see no hands.
Okay, on second reading, final adoption, Councilmember Aloya.
I support the concept of what this ordinance is behind. I think as a society, we have to realize the only way we stop poisoning the world that we live in is to incinerate our own trash. To dump plastic bottles, plastic straws, and plastic bags into the ocean and then be surprised that they float up on some shore somewhere else is almost unconscionable. That we would think that that's where's it gonna go? Of course it's gonna float up. There's these two gentlemen, they have a great commercial on TV where they're combing the beach and they're making great, I think they're really great men. I'm not criticizing these men at all. I think what they do is great. But wouldn't it be great if we put them out of business? By putting them out of business, that means stop throwing our garbage in the ocean. It would really be simple, but we don't want to buy the incinerators, and that's really what we need to do. And the place to build the incinerators is right on the landfill. It already exists. And the science to have chimneys and things that are swept, so the heat and the exhaust and the dirt that comes out of them would be almost zero, if not even improved, already exists. We have to commit to that. But I'm not going to not vote for this because we haven't caught up to our own needs. So I support this, I vote aye.
Councilmember Calandrillo.
Yes, and I said at the last meeting, this is a global problem we have in this world. I just wish the state would just go ahead and pass a similar law or pass the perfect law, maybe involving styrofoam. It just bothers me that we have the right to fine our businesses, but if you go to a neighboring community that doesn't have this same law, everything's the same as old business, everything as usual. So I just, it's a good idea, but the state really has to get it together. And Lou, you said it better than anybody. Stop the dumping of the garbage into the ocean. And that's really where all this comes from. So I vote aye.
Councilmember Erin Delaney.
Yes, Mr. Devine. I absolutely am in agreement with you. I absolutely would love to include styrofoam, and that's definitely the next battle that I want to take on. However, I wouldn't recommend pulling something like this evening to include that, because just getting this passed, I've been having conversations about these two items for over a year. So being that we're having, we took a step in the right direction, I want to continue taking those steps, then strides, and continue on with this progress. Thank you for the support, everyone. And I did want to note that my main goal with this was to encourage behavior and policy change, because that's one of the most effective community strategies that's shown to make a difference in communities. And at National Night Out, we had our one group, and I wanted to give them a little shout out. So EPIC is a high school group, Empower Peers, Inspire Change. And one of the giveaways that they were giving out at National Night Out were these reusable straws that come with little cleaners. So I had reached out to their coordinator, and I just want to reiterate, thank you so much for being a part of this ordinance and for encouraging this change in our community. It was really nice to see. With that being said, I vote aye.
Deputy Mayor Joseph Delaney.
This is great. You got youth, young kids taking the initiative of changing our climate. We got somebody in the White House. I don't believe that there's even a climate change. So when I hear the youth taking steps when we can't even get these steps, never mind the state. At the White House. We got to do what we could do right here, and this is one of the steps that we could take right here to make the world a better place for not only my grandchildren, but my grandchildren. Think about the future, even though some of our leaders don't. I vote aye.
Mayor Rigloso.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea, and I do want to give a shout out to EPIC. They're doing such a great job in making recognition known for, initiatives like this. I thank Councilwoman Delaney for starting it up. It's important. We got to start moving forward, so I vote aye.
Okay, the ordinance is adopted, and that concludes our written items for voting this time. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. The last ordinance was held.
Yeah, last ordinance was held. Okay, at this time, we're going to open it up to citizens and taxpayers. Please remember, there's a 3 minutes. You have opportunity to come back up. So at this time, I see Mrs. Raymond's hands. Please state your name and address. I understand, Ms. Raymond, but it is 3 minutes.
Okay, I would just like to say, you have to toughen up. Many times when I sat up there, and Aaron, I wasn't making the situation worse, we used to have a man that came and would scream at your dad, who went and planted trees for him, but the trees didn't take, they died. He used to swear at us and yell at us all the time, and I'll tell you what, when Tom Dutch was the mayor, and Frankie was the mayor, and Louis was the mayor, I would have been removed at every meeting. Because people get emotional. This is a very sensitive topic to the people that live in that area, and I can totally understand it. Deputy Mayor Delaney, Sketchley property, I am very proud of that project. That came out beautiful, but you can't compare that to the area where this is going to be built. That is next to a daycare, but it's on a big piece of land. There's loads of parking there. Some of the spots are always empty. Well, it's not all rented yet anyway. But it's a beautiful development, and there is no traffic problem there. There's going to be a traffic problem on Sixth Street. I know, I spoke to someone that has a business on Passaic Street, and he's very disillusioned. He's really thinking about getting out of Garfield, and it's really a shame. So while you may think you're going to encourage some people, you're also going to lose some people. And Mayor, I would just like to say, don't remove people from the meeting if they rule them out of order. But everybody's got a right, that's their First Amendment right. They pay taxes, they have a right to speak. And sometimes they get a little emotional and they speak out of order, so bad. Now, I understand, well, first of all, the questions that were asked here when that ordinance was opened up, they weren't answered. You didn't answer those questions. Now, if you're gonna answer them at the end, it's already too late. You voted. So I don't know if you just overlooked it or you just forgot, or I don't know what happened, but that's not a good thing. And I'm telling you this now, I have a half an acre of land. My house is on a half acre. So when I die, if my son wants to put up 105 units, I'm gonna tell him, go ahead, apply for the permits. Half an acre, I look at my property. I can't even imagine 105 apartments going on and I have a half an acre. I can't even imagine 105 units going up there. So I really think you are making a mistake. Redevelopment is good, but not there. It was discussed about Monroe Street. I didn't know there was a building going up on Monroe Street. I didn't see that. We're on Monroe Street when you answer. And also, Greater Bergen, are you talking about Head Start? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Is that what they're referring to?
Yes.
We did get the building.
Keep going, Tanya, please.
We did get the building in the back. They're putting 7 classrooms in there. I didn't know there was redevelopment going there other than 7 classrooms, and that's for our preschool. And I'll tell you, that Head Start program is wonderful. It's a very, very good program, and it costs us nothing. So it's a school, so I would imagine that's why there's no taxes. But I don't know about redevelopment. I didn't hear
No,
anything about.
I said free rent.
Free rent.
Yes.
Yes, but with that free rent comes, you have no idea what comes with that. You have to assist the families. We have 1 nurse per 105 students. She's got to discuss with the parents nutrition, prenatal care before the children were born. There is so much, I could get you, if you want the information, I could get it from the nurse. There is so many stipulations with that, and that's probably why it's free. There's a lot of work that goes into that. They actually bring in hearing specialists to check the children's ears, eye specialists to check their sight. It's really a wonderful program, and we have to thank Mrs. Siaka for that. She went out, and the former superintendent really kind of frowned upon it. But Mrs. Siaka and Dr. Kazmano went and met with the people, and they thought it was a good thing, and it turned out so good this past year. That was the pilot, that they extended it. And so that's why we're getting additional classrooms. So that clears that up.
Ms. Raymond, I'm going to open it up to other people. You could.
And I'll have to come back.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
With that, Mayor, I have to leave.
Okay. Yep. Anybody else would like to come up and speak? Please state your name.
Good evening, gentlemen, madam. Mara G. Lopez, 354 Semel Avenue. Really quickly, this is not related to any of the ordinances, and I apologize for taking up any time to distract anyone's concerns or emotional feelings about what's being discussed tonight. It's just, this is just in reference to a couple of things that are going to be happening next month, and I just wanted to make the City Council aware in case they would like to support. Next month is Hispanic Heritage Month. It will be starting from September 15th to October 15th. During that time, we'll be conducting a few events to raise awareness to our culture in the city of Garfield and things of that nature. With that being said, our gala will be October 9th, and we will be honoring 3 members of the city of Garfield. Andrea Espinosa, which is a gym teacher in the high school. We also have the late Louis Cornier, also known as Papo. He's also going to be recognized posthumously. His family will be accepting that award. and Officer Detective Francisco Sanchez from the Garfield Police Department. He was the first Hispanic police officer in the city, among other parties that will be, we're just still trying to confirm for that date. So I just wanted to let you guys be aware that October 9th that will be happening. And also adding to that, recently a Garfield High School student, 15-year-old Ashley Castillo, whose parents are Melvin and Adelphi Castillo, she just recently won for the state of New Jersey the Miss Dominican Republic Award, which is also part of the scholarship program. And she has the opportunity that she will be getting, possibly moving on to a more nationwide pageant. And she is currently still a Garfield High School student. So it's just something that I wanted to bring up, perhaps something that we can recognize her for more publicly. She wished to be here tonight, but she's actually in the middle of doing some promoting for her recently, acquired award. And that's all I want to say. Thank you. Two more awards, I'm sorry. So two other people that are going to be honored that night is going to be a brand new award. It's called the Alliance Award. The Alliance Award is for any member of the city of Garfield, any community member of the city of Garfield who is not of Latino background, who contributes to our goal, which is to help the Latino community in the city of Garfield to rise and become more involved, more prominent and productive members of our community. And we also have a one-time award, which is going to be given to Councilmember Louis Aloya, who is who, believe it or not, is actually indirectly the founder of the Hispanic Alliance. And it's a story that we're very excited to tell that night. So we do hope that everyone is there and can come and support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Capizzi.
I had to bring my pop. This is the second set of pots in 2 years. I'm not gonna let you keep the pot, but I'd like you to take a look at this. This is just from boiling for a cup of tea. It doesn't come off. If you could identify the element that's in there, it would be good, because if it is calcium, that level of calcium is not good for a person's kidneys, nor for their liver, and I already checked with the doctor. I mean, it's ridiculous that we have to be, this is not acceptable. This is our drinking water. We need to get this fixed. As far as the dead end of Pepworth Place, over a year ago, we spoke with the community policing. They were supposed to be calling, I believe it's public service, to get a light at the dead end of that street. It is still not done. If you could please call transit. They need to clean up their property. It's like the woods. There are groundhogs and rats coming out of there. It's not acceptable. If our police officers ever have to run on transit property north of Somerset Street, somebody is going to get seriously injured because there are broken railroad ties with the studs still sticking out of them. That needs to be addressed. At the work session, we talked about a percentage of trucks, and I really didn't understand what you were talking about, if it was a grant or some type of monies that were available. But if it just pertains to Atlantic Street, it's ludicrous, because we need to take into all of the streets. Commerce, Somerset, Monroe, Midland, the whole route, including Marcellus, because that's where those trucks go. They only wind up on the corner of Atlantic and Commerce. But to get to that point is what we really need to be addressing. Furthermore, none of my questions were answered. And with all due respect, this was an election. Election takes place because people want to serve. You don't serve anybody but the people of the town. It's not a coronation, and it's not an anointing. It's a position of service. And to not listen to people that you are supposed to serve. Well, there's a lot of words that I could use, but it's sad. It's really sad. Because the people want to work with you, but you don't want to work with the people.
Hi, Tracy Dolce, D-O-L-C-I, from 564 Midland Ave, Garfield. I'm just following up on a question Mrs. Raymond said at the last meeting. I don't come to the meetings, but I do watch them. And she had stated something about a person from Passaic voting in our town. I was wondering if
I'm sorry.
that we ever found out about that.
I'm sorry, Tracy, I didn't hear the question.
Mrs. Raymond mentioned something about a person from Passaic or Patterson that voted in Garfield. I was wondering if anybody ever got to the bottom of that and how that happened.
She never gave us any information.
No. We don't know nothing about it.
Also, in follow-up to that, we go down to vote every year, me and my family. Every year we go, my son cannot vote because supposedly he is voting through the mail, but he is not. So I need to know what I can do to find out if anybody's voting for him and what do I do? So you can answer at the end of whether I have to go somewhere.
Thank you.
I think I can answer that.
You want to answer that now, Jim?
Well, I
Okay.
guess we should wait.
All right. Before I open it up to you,
Right.
I'll let you answer that.
My name is D'Angelo. I've been coming here the past 2 years, complaining about the neighbor. Grass is about 3 feet high.
Mr. D'Angelo, your address for the record.
The grass 3 feet high. Got
Mr. D'Angelo, just for the record, your address.
Where do you live? What is your address? Where's your
Sal
house
has a hearing
located?
problem. He lives on Cherry Street, 22
No,
Cherry.
I live in Cherry Street. I have a house, I bought on my mother's house. It's the honor of my mother.
Okay, which house, where does your mom live?
16 Farman Avenue.
116 Farnham Avenue is the complaint, but your home address is on
Next door
Cherry
is
Street.
112.
Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo.
112. The grass is 3 feet high. I've been coming here for the past 2 years. And they told me to come and see to the council meeting. I haven't get any result. Finally cut the grass. You got junkyard, you got 4 cars in the backyard, a bank.
That's all I know.
That side of the keeping the property clean. I spend the hours and hours cleaning the property up. And you talk about developing in Passaic Street, is no parking space in Farman Avenue and Clark Street. My tenant has to go down and Lodi to park the car. How can you improve something like that in here in Passaic Street, no parking facility? Where are they gonna park? It's fine for development, but you gotta have a parking space. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo. Please come up.
My name is Rosa Murkowski, and I live at 476 Harrison Avenue in Lodi. I live in the apartment building that had the horrific car accident
Yes.
in June. I heard that I was at Lodi's meeting, and they said that they're going to be working in Garfield. I was wondering if anything has been discussed, or are there any plans?
I'm gonna answer that. Yes, we have discussed some things about Harrison Ave. We're coordinating with the police department and the mayor and their manager as well to work something out to slow up the traffic on Harrison Ave on both sides. All right. It is an unfortunate accident, and something needs to be done.
I know I was hit on Harrison Avenue about 10 years ago, and my car was totaled out, and I thought it was horrible,
Right.
but can't compare it to
No, you
this.
can't compare.
And I'm trying to get Lodi. I know parking was a big thing, and I'm trying to get Lodi to paint yellow lines right by our driveway, so that if we see oncoming cars coming and speeding at the speed he was going, we would be able to stop before pulling out.
Thank you, Teresa.
Can I have your last name? I'm sorry.
Ratkowski.
How do you spell?
Ratkowski.
Thank you.
My parents grew up in Garfield. My grandmother had a poultry market on Harrison Avenue. I've been there forever. Well, I'm on the Lodi side now.
Hello, Lori Calvert, 54 Belmont Avenue. Recently, as a member of GARF, I spent a lot of time on Semmel Avenue. And there's a speed table there. I don't know the difference between a speed table and a speed bump, but nobody pays any attention to it. That street is it's a speedway. Cars are flying up and down, they're going over the speed table. And it's a residential street. There's people walking with dogs, people walking with little kids on little tricycles. And I just thought you guys should know that those speed bumps or speed tables need to be bigger, or a cop needs to be stationed on that street before somebody gets killed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to?
At Divine 159 Market, I got a couple softballs for you folks tonight. Website looks good, glad to see it up and going. Egg timer. Egg timer really got to go. You know, if you're going to set this egg timer for 3 minutes, and I haven't seen one single person be told your 3 minutes are up, and all we do is hear this egg timer, that I wouldn't even think you would use that in the middle school, Mr. Mayor. I would think that would be really kept to maybe the preschool, the egg timer thing. It's really embarrassing, to be quite honest with you. Kicking that guy out, I don't know about that at all. Mr. Delaney, you mentioned when we were speaking about revenue, I see you're not here, you mentioned Fleischman's Brook and Market Street concerning what we need this revenue for. I believe the last time I had any input on that issue, Fleischman's Brook was being discussed with the county, and there was a debate going on between the county and the city who was responsible. So any sort of income that could possibly be derived from the development on Passaic Street, as of today, would, to the best of my knowledge, would never be used for Fleischman's Brook because the city and the county are still at loggerheads concerning who's actually financially responsible for repairing Fleischman's Brook. Riverside Walk, Mr. Boswell. That's a picture of some damage over there, relatively fresh on the end of Morris. I don't know who's going to be responsible for replacing that piece of fence. I don't know what happened over there. It looks like a truck went through
It's
it.
supposed to be fixed already. Mr. Garofalo is working on it.
Oh, great. The intersection of Outwater and Jewel. There's two do not block signs. There's one at the Wawa that says do not block driveway. There's another one at the intersection and it says do not block intersection. The sign that says do not block intersection is one of those little guys, about 8 by 10. Sign is completely disregarded. I think just a larger sign at the intersection of Outwater and Jewel would help alleviate some of that, the log jam over there at rush hour. The other entrance to our city, Midland Avenue and Outwater Lane, a property I believe owned by one of our zoning members. really looks like Vince Lombardi's service area. I see the tractor trailers rotating in and out of there. I would think that a member of the zoning board would be a little bit more conscientious of the appearance of his property. Possibly put up some sort of green fence over there. It looks like it's going to be going on there for a long time. May as well, turn it into a rest area or something over there. It's pretty sloppy. I'm not sure Dr. Conti or his family, his daughter, I'm not sure actually who is claiming ownership of that now. I know there was some concern or some confusion. The statue of General Pulaski, been there now 5 years. I understand there was an effort to get a plaque over onto that statue, recognizing the gentleman himself. I even was told there was money collected or something along those lines. Nobody knows who the man is unless you know who he is, because it doesn't say anything over there. And as far as I'm aware, I don't know if any, here he is here. I don't know if any money's been returned to anybody who handed it in. We're still working on the project. Maybe we need a couple more bucks to get it right. It seems so, may as well put a bow on the present, it's the final little thing you got going there. You spoke about the judge giving out incorrect fines for illegal apartments. I don't know if anyone's verified what His Honor's doing over there concerning the $1,500 mandatory minimum fine. Unless he's sending people to jail for 90 days or something like that, I think they should be forced, somebody's got to speak to the man. Maybe the man doesn't even know. Also at the park, the Riverfront Park, there's a water control system that's used for the in-ground sprinkling system. It's a rather large unit, about the size of a garbage can. Somebody apparently is making adjustments over there. There's a large cover for that unit.
Front Park.
Somebody has seen fit not to bother putting the cover back on a regular basis. It's sitting out there. There's all sorts of valves, hoses, meter, gauges, and everything else exposed to the elements. One of two things are going to happen. Either that thing is just going to have to be replaced, which I'm sure it costs a pretty penny, or somebody's going to grab a hold of that cover. It's about the size, I say, of a garbage can, and just toss it into the river. And then for certain we'll be replacing the unit because it'll be exposed to the elements 24/7.
Mr. Devine.
That's it.
Well, there you go. I didn't use the
Thank you.
timer.
Thank you.
You got it. Anybody else would like to come up and talk?
I'll make it quick, I promise. Okay, Jennifer Lopez, 128 Willard Street. So I know that the development on Monroe is pretty much happening. There's nothing to stop it. So I live on the corner of Willard and Peary, and there's always a lot of traffic, believe it or not, in that residential area, and there are people that speed like you have no idea. So trying to come down from Midland to make a right onto Monroe, which is the corner of that new development, I think there should possibly be some type of speed bump, speed table, something, because like I said, when you make that right, or whether or not I'm coming from Van Winkle onto my street or Midland, Monroe onto my street, people are speeding like it's insane. And there's a lot of traffic in that area. So just because those new apartments are coming up, there's gonna be a lot more traffic added into that area. If it's possible with some speed bumps, speed table. I know a light is probably ridiculous because we're so close to the other light on Passaic on Palisade and Monroe, but just a suggestion. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Raymond. Yes, I called you, Ms. Raymond.
We had a little issue this week. I'm sure you've already been notified, you got the email from one of your constituents in the city, one of the taxpayers who had a little run-in with the health inspector, the new health inspector, who I was told has been doing this for 20 years, which is not true. She worked at Farmland Dairies till 2014, and then went into this field. But anyway, a letter was sent to one of our members, Joelle, she's here tonight, O'Brien, from the health department, from the health inspector, about her dog and her cat. She has neither. She doesn't have a dog and she doesn't have a cat. And it says something here, you're notified by the Garfield Health Department, they received a complaint that you're in violation of one or more animal laws as indicated below. Harboring pets without a license, dog, cat, she doesn't have either. So, and she's here tonight. Obviously, I called Helena, I'd like to meet with her. She needs, I think, to be educated as to what we do. She does not like cat colonies in the city, which the whole state is now, is in fact, Bergen County Shelter that this council contracted with, they have the big TNR program going on now. A couple of our members are fosters for them, taking in the baby kittens. And she doesn't seem to understand anything about any of this. So I am going to meet with her. But you know, letters like this going to residents that don't even have an animal out of the city, and I know it was mentioned here tonight, Mayor, 32,000 people with all the illegal apartments. You got more like 38,000 in this town. And I know there were 11 complaints went into the health department about cats. 4 of which are 4 people are related. We know who they are. We've spoken to them. In fact, I have to tell you, after Mrs. Lavin got the visit from the health inspector, 2 days later, a man pulls up in her driveway and she thought, oh my God, what is this, now the county? The man came to her and said, I'm not gonna mention the names, I know the type of harassment that Mr. Blank and Mr. Blank can do, and I know what they're capable of. He handed her $400 and said, you put this to your Garf group for the animals, I admire what you do. She said to him, what is your name? He did give her his name. She said, do you live in Garfield? He said, no, but close enough. He said, but I happen to know these 2 people very well. So obviously, one of the complainants must have been bragging somewhere, and that's how this guy came and found Debbie Lavin and came to her house and handed her this money. Now, we're applying for a 501c, so we're gonna put that money toward that. But just so that you know, because I'm sure she probably wasn't happy to get this letter about her, and I'm sure she's gonna come to the council. This woman does not have 20 years of experience. She worked at Farmland Dairy till 2014, so, you know, but I'm willing to work with her. I want to educate her as to what we do. And what we did on Semel Avenue, we removed 50 cats off that property. 50. That took a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And it doesn't seem to be understood. So I will meet with her in the beginning of September, I told her, and we will discuss this whole thing. And you can't have TNR and return cats to a city and not have colonies, because who's gonna feed them? What are they supposed to do? We never, I have to say this, I know you don't want to hear it, but I have to say it. When we had Lisa, we never had these problems. We have problems now. Right before I came out tonight, I got a call, there was a baby kitten laying on somebody's property crying and it couldn't walk. And they asked, well, what could we do? I told them to call the shelter. They don't answer after 5. Then I told them to call the SPCA, which they did, and they said they would call the Garfield police, which probably maybe would take the kitten down to the shelter. When we had Lisa, we didn't have that problem. She came right down. Just saying, I know what the feelings are, but just saying. You really turned this whole thing upside down, and it's not good. It's made our job a lot harder, but we're not giving up. We will be around a long time. We are not giving up. And for somebody to stop from another town to give money because they knew about these complainants, it's a setup. So just so that you know that side of the story. And let me see if there was, and please as far as the voting, it's Paul Ledford. He said he wants to meet with you, who saw the people from Passaic. Now this woman, I just told her to call Patty DiCostanza or Mr. Hogan about her son. Because if her son didn't vote and he went to vote and his vote was already in there, something's not right. But you know, I had mentioned to Drew one time that we really should think about having identification when you go vote. And Drew, you told me it was illegal. I checked with Mr. Hogan, it's not illegal. They do it in other towns. It is not illegal. So that might be something. But what happened, Mr. Dutch, Pool's wife had surgery, and she's out of work, and he's been so busy, but he said he definitely will talk to you. So one day, we'll get you on the phone, okay? And he will tell you what he witnessed. I don't think he knows their names, but he knows them from working in Passaic. Okay, so just keep in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Rainey.
There should be some type of identification.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. Anyone else would like to come up and speak?
John Bannis, 24th Place. I find it very interesting that today is really one of the first meetings in a long time that our reporter is not here.
Right there, she's sitting right there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Thank you. I'm happy. I was getting so upset when I said, where's the reporter? Where's the reporter? Where's the reporter? Oh, that's a relief. I was really upset. Good. I'm glad you're here. I have to, of course, bring up about cable. Cable and Channel 77. Mr. Dutch explained in detail at the last meeting the situation of airing the meetings on Cablevision and Verizon. So I just wanted an update on that. Those subscribers have not had, with Optimum, have not had access to watch the meetings on Channel 77 for 1 year. So how long is this going to take? Every meeting, it's another month, next month, next. It's been 1 whole year. They're still paying their franchise fees. Garfield is getting the money every January 23rd. And now they're also paying through their taxes for the new website, Alpha Dog, but they don't have access to it because these are for citizens who do not have technology in their home. It will take a few more years to transition from 100% of our citizens, people having cable and internet. But these are for the citizens that do not have internet. So now they're paying $23,000 a year through taxes for Alpha Dog, which is fantastic because it's new and that's what we need. But they're also paying their cable bill. So now they don't have their cable channel 77 and they're not, they can't take advantage, let's put it that way, can't take advantage of watching the great meetings that are on the website, which is unfortunate, but these are still people who are out there that we represent. I just wonder how long this is going to take, but it has been one year. And I have one other question, Mr. Dutch. When will all the information be up on Alpha Dog? All information from the city? You had said all the departments were forwarding all the, remember at the last meeting you mentioned?
Yes.
So when will all that information be up on Alpha Dog?
Use one.
The situation with Greater Bergen and the Head Start school, the Head Start, I think there's a little confusion. And I think this needs to be looked at a little bit in more detail. But I was taken back when I realized that one of our public schools had been taken over by Head Start. It may be a fantastic program, but our Garfield preschools are excellent also. But needless to say, it happened. There just seems to be maybe a little conflict of interest because Greater Bergen is not charging Garfield for that rental anymore on the preschool on Midland Avenue. So Garfield is saving $225,000 a year for the next 5 years. But is there a conflict of interest because Greater Bergen are the developers for the City Street building? So I'm just wondering where this is something that I find very questionable. I don't know where to ask the questions. I don't know if there is anything there. It just seems like in 2018, that contract was made with Greater Bergen and Garfield Board of Ed, and now they just happen to be the developers on City Street. So I find that a little unsettling.
So you know,
Yeah.
that contract was way before we had a settlement. They were there a couple of years prior. It's a continuing contract.
Ed Divine, Market Street. On the Cablevision issue, last meeting, Mr. Dutch, you said you had a gentleman in from Cablevision. He wasn't the right guy. You didn't have an answer yet. You were going to get somebody in here who could better evaluate the existing Board of Education equipment. I'm wondering if you managed to get that done. Mr. Laney, you stated that you were going to set up a meeting to discuss the use of the Cablevision equipment with the Board of Ed. I was wondering if you got that done. And I'm going to give you my honest opinion about this whole Cablevision thing. I'm quite certain this is not going to happen this year, if for no reason other than the fact that the money's not in the budget. It's 4 months left in the year. Are we going to play this shell game with the Cablevision starting in January again? Is there going to be some more nonsense going on here? Or are the council members that are up here tonight willing to commit that, assuming everything being equal, we have no equipment, we don't even have a Board of Education. Let's assume we're starting from scratch. Are we going to put our name on the dotted line to fork up the $10,000 in January? Forget now. We got enough time to, we use the word explore, we use the word new, old, what have you. Forget all that. January. Who's going to sign on the dotted line to get this done in January? Because I'm quite certain, based on what I see now, this game is going to go on beyond January, because we're getting really good at this game. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to come up and speak? I see no hands. I'll open it up to council comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, City Manager, Mr. Dutch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Dead end of Hepworth Place, cleanup, groundhogs, rats, etc. I will notify Mr. Garofalo. He also handles light requests. I will notify him tomorrow. The truck route grant, we were just discussing that concept. As you could see from being at the work meeting, we were not totally familiar with the grant, and we were obviously familiarizing ourselves, so we didn't talk about the exact route, et cetera, but we know what the route is that the trash trucks take in, and if there's some possibility, you also know that 15% of the traffic has to be truck traffic from sitting at the work meeting. So we have a lot of work to do on that. And so we're about at the same place. In terms of the election issue, typically election issues are handled by the Bergen County Board of Elections. They have a complaint department, they have an investigative department. They actually send out investigators. I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me about it, but elections in the city are run by the city clerk, and that's done. He reports to John Hogan, the county clerk, who reports to the Bergen County Board of Elections. So there's a set procedure already to handle those types of complaints, but I'm happy to get involved if I need to.
Tom, could I explain one quick thing? There was a question that was asked in regard to absentee voting and whether the person that goes to the polls, they're marked as absentee. The governor of the state of New Jersey had signed into law legislation that said anybody that had voted absentee with the presidential election in 2016 will henceforth get an absentee ballot, whether they request it or not. So in order to not get an absentee ballot and be marked absentee at the polls, the person has to opt out. So there's been some debate whether that was the right path for the state to move forward with in regard to election law, but that's the law. And to not have that situation, if you contact The county clerk's office at 201-336-6100. Speak to the people in John Hogan's office in the election division, and the person can opt out of the absentee voting. 201-336-6100.
Okay, on Fleischer's Brook. What happened is this. I made a request to Mr. Boswell's office, because yes, we have been going back and forth on the former bed of Fleischer's Brook and the deterioration of the culverts and the bridges at each of those locations. Yes, we have been fighting with the county about who's responsible for it. The county's opinion is that we're totally responsible for it. I'm happy to report that Mr. Harrington from Mr. Boswell's office actually went out and did find one place where there was a county manhole. So we may be able to hold the county liable for that particular intersection or that particular crossing of Fleischer's Brook. In terms of the remaining crossings, it looks like it's a city problem. So what I've done is I've asked Mr. Boswell to work with Mr. Garofalo and come up with a long-range plan so that we can repair these, because if we repaired them all at once, it would probably be millions of dollars. It is not a priority. I have to say that just out front so you know that. Instead, I've asked that maybe we do the first two that are really bad and then do one a year after, each year afterwards, maybe apply for community development block grant and get that done once and for all. It does need to be addressed, but with everything else that's happening in the city and all the other requirements, it's difficult. In terms of the fence at the Riverwalk, I'm very upset.
Could I just jump on that? Also, when we went to go get the conditions assessment reports of all of those structures in an effort to try to get DOT grant funding, the conditions assessment that were performed by a Trenton consultant reported that they were in fair or better condition. So the actual condition being in fair or better condition hurts our ability to secure grant dollars to go do that. And one thing we actively try to do is maximize grant dollars so that we don't have to spend local dollars to do infrastructure jobs like this. We are assessing them again and seeing if they would have come down in their conditions so that they would be more attractive to be successful to get a grant.
In terms of the fence at the Riverwalk, you're absolutely right. One of the things that I ask my people who work in the Department of Public Works is look around, check, see. If you see something wrong, fix it. That fence has been fixed once before, okay? So in terms of that's a gate. That's supposed to be a gate right where you are. So we will get that addressed. I will talk about that tomorrow. I want to go back to Dolores's complaint about the pot and the water. I would like Mr. Boswell to, Mr. Mayor, if I could, ask Mr. Boswell to address the water issue. Citizens need to understand that we provide a lot of our own water. Every single day in this city, we need about 3 million gallons of water to service our people. Sometimes in the summer, our usage goes up to 4 million gallons a day. We provide, in terms of our water, we produce anywhere from 2.2 million to 2.8 million gallons a day, sometimes more, okay? But we buy some water. The water we produce is hard. The water is hard. There's a lot of minerals in the water, no question about it. The water is tested. We test it more than required by law because it is something that this governing body has made very clear is a priority, and we want to make sure that our people can feel safe when they drink that water. With that, Mr. Boswell, if you can explain why that white comes in the pot.
It does appear that what you have in your pot, Mrs. Capizzi, is calcium. We test the water monthly on some points of entry. We have 3 points of entry from our wells, and we have another 4 points of entry where Passaic Valley Water gets in there. We test the water monthly in some areas, quarterly in other areas. We have no violations of any kind relative to contaminants, hardness, or what have you. It's a vigilant thing that we have to stay on all the time. It changes by the season. As Tom said, in the summertime, we need to buy more water from Passaic Valley Water, which is a surface water source. It comes from reservoirs and has a different set of chemistry when it comes in. So the chemistry of the water does change. But one thing that has to stay the same is it has to meet New Jersey state drinking water standards for public water systems. We do. You see the new tanks going in at the corner of Midland and Outwater. There's a second tank going in. That's a permanent water system that will treat currently regulated contaminants as well as future to-be-regulated contaminants. We're doing the same thing at Well 8C over on Laurel Lane, and we're looking to probably adding the same type of carbon filter units on the large setup we have at the Elmwood Park well field. It's a constant standard that we have to keep up with. Well, the city, as the mayor and council has invested heavily in this infrastructure and produced water at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost from another purveyor outside. And they do it with the quality of water that many would state is better than what is available from such other companies as Suez and Asoli, a Passaic Valley water system. So the residents are very lucky to have the quality of water that they have at the rates they pay for it. They have one of the lower rates, certainly in the area and throughout the state. So it's something that is a very significant asset to the city. We'll stay on it. We'll chase it. We'll go after it. We'll come back to you, Mrs. Capizzi, and we'll let you know as soon as we know something else, we'll get back to you. We can't guarantee the problem will be solved, but we're going to make sure that the water complies with the standards, first off, which it does. And we will look at other aspects and try to improve upon that at all times.
Thank you. In terms of the Lodi residents, we had this discussion during our work meeting. The entire governing body is on board. We had our deputy chief and our lieutenant in charge of traffic go meet with the Lodi officials. Our mayor has been in touch with your mayor. I've been in touch with your manager. We are all working together to try to come up with some type of a solution. Just give us time so that it's not a hurried solution, but a proper solution. So that's the Lodi residents. In terms of the health inspector, Ms. Raymond, as you know, I can't really, she left?
She left.
Okay, I can't really discuss personnel other than to say this. I know that our health inspector has done over 400 inspections in the time that she has been with us. I have one complaint, 400 inspections. So I believe she's doing an exceptional job. So that's that issue. In terms of Cablevision, and I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can because I know the council has to speak as well. In terms of Cablevision, yes, I did reach out to a lady, Marilyn, who has been very helpful at Altice, which is Optimum. I still do not have any response as to whether or not they can upgrade the Board of Education facility. I planned on reaching out to her again today. I was unable to do that. I will do that before the next meeting. But the equipment, the Board of Education equipment, and I believe for those residents who were not here, our difficulty is this. The Board of Education equipment is so old, so antiquated, that they have to reconvert it back to some old technology to be able to get it on. It is a process that I'm told takes hours. I'm not a tech person. I'm not a video person. I can tell you this. I can tell you that if you go on the new website and you click on the council meeting, if you haven't done it, go home and do it. It is exceptional. The quality of the picture is exceptional. The quality of the sound is exceptional. So that option is available immediately. And what also is good about it is if you come to a part of the meeting that maybe you don't want to listen to and you want to pass over it, or if you want to go back and listen again, you can do that. On the website, you can do it. Do it with your mouse. Very easy to do. It is absolutely fantastic. In terms of the website, Joan, I'm not quite sure what you're asking because every department head did submit. Every department should be on. Every department head has been told that if there's anything else they need changed, they should let us know. I will tell you that in the last 2 weeks, I've spent an incredible amount of time just reading through it, making just little typographical corrections. And, so it's still a work in progress, so please bear with us. But I think that the product is a lot better. If you look, you talked about the Hispanic Alliance before. Your event is already on the website, okay? So we are, the St. Stan's Picnic is on the website. This week, we have the Mount Virgin Feast on the website. So major events that are happening in the city are on the website. Please scroll down, and when it says more, hit the more button and look for more, because there's a lot of good things happening in the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Aloya, please.
Okay. As quickly as I can go through it, the dog park is all complete, all the toys are in, everything is set up. With regard to that, I think that the DPW, Rick Angelosi, Phil Amato, these people deserve a notable thank you for all the effort that they put in, because it was a lot of work. Mr. Devine, you never hit a softball. Your always questions always cause me more pain than I realized, because you really ask good questions. Don't think that they're not good questions. We may not have good answers, but you got good questions. With regard to the fire truck, I don't want to sound arrogant or ignorant when I make this statement, but please listen to me out. A fire truck may cost us $1 million. When we don't show up to your house and the people in your home die, what the cost? And trust me, it's just, it's just beyond comprehension. And then what the lawsuit? The lawsuit will be for millions and millions of dollars. So it is an expensive piece of equipment. We do have volunteers. The volunteers that we have are worth 10 times what the truck costs us, without question. But not having that type of equipment, not having the need for that equipment would be great, but we have the need for the equipment. We live in a very busy city. They go out hundreds of times a year. They really do. Come to their meeting, their annual meeting. It really is, it's amazing. Dolores, where are you? White vinegar. I wash the dishes by my house. Give me the pot, I'll clean it for you. But we do have a lot of minerals in our water, and it does cause a problem. Jennifer, the garbage pail idea, I get yelled at for this one all the time. Go by the Dunkin' Donuts, Rotec, that mall there. They have 9 garbage bins. I count them. And people are so lazy. They'll drop their coffee cup, styrofoam coffee cup. They'll drop the coffee cup on the ground and the pail is there. It's not the pail, it's us. It's not the plastic straw, it's not the plastic bag, it's us. We really have to ask ourselves, why do we do this to ourselves? I'm not really sure. Mr. Boswell, the flooding behind the Midland Avenue Head Start School is, maybe that's the downspout or the manhole cover that comes off of Fleischer's Brook. That is flooding the whole neighborhood.
Okay.
So before, God forbid, the kids are in the back playing or the manhole pops up because the water moves it, it really is something that needs to be addressed. Lastly, it's brought up numerous times that we've had a developer on Walnut Street that took 10 years to develop the property. That's not correct. The developer is a very smart, savvy businessman. Savvy and concerned only for himself, and that's respectable. I don't find that to be a criticism, that's just a simple fact. So he waited until it was the right time to clean the property and build his apartments. In 2008, if he constructed those apartments, he would have lost his shirt, and he knows it. So he staged it. He told us he was going to build a veterans hospital. Go build it. You're not going to be able to build it because it's a federal building. You're not the federal government. But if you remember those were all the articles that were in the newspaper. So I don't appreciate the criticism that we're stopping development. It's not the issue. That was a very smart developer who picked and planned when he should develop a dirty piece of property. But he cleaned a dirty piece of property. But it took so long that the neighbors really were frustrated. Rightfully so. But on that case, I have to say, I went with the developer in that case because he was cleaning up something that was really bad. Took too long, I'll give you that. I'll take the criticism on that one. But it was not something that we were going to have problems with after. This problem on Passaic Street, I think we're gonna have problems after. With regarding to voting, absolutely, everything that you've heard about people fraudulently voting is 100% true. In the last election, it took us 2 days to find 400 people who voted in Garfield that didn't even live in Garfield. Only took us 2 days to do it in the election. I gotta thank Councilman Calandrillo. He calls me up, he says, Lou, I wanna take a picture of a house. I'm gonna send it to you. 8 people voted for the house. The address number was 142, street I'm not gonna mention. The house wasn't constructed yet. 8 people voted. Frank calls me up, says, Lou, check this address, because he was helping me going through that point in time when we just had to have the election. There were 8 people in a building that didn't even exist. So yeah, check it out. Right, and those are, well, we only did it for 2 days, that's all we needed to do. And these were people that were absolutely not Garfield residents. Could you imagine when you multiply that across the 50 states across the country, how many people do those type of things? As with the 9 bills. To Jesus Rodriguez and the Hispanic Alliance, I am honored, thank you very much for the honor. Please don't ever go out drinking with Jesus. Because 10 years later, when you're an Italian American, they give you the Hispanic Alliance Award because they have. I know, it was my next door neighbor. We ran together in 2004, correct? Yeah, it was a good year. But those things happen, thank you, I'm truly honored. I tried to go fast, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Calandrillo.
All right, thank you. Dolores, as far as the planning board not voting at the public meeting, I'm not an attorney, but I just know that when I was on the planning board, we made sure whatever we voted on was in public, not in work session, especially memorializing resolutions. It's the right thing. It's a controversial item. So what do? Controversial items, go the extra effort. Make sure it's done correctly. So I don't have an answer for you on that as to what they did. I just know when I sat on there, Mr. Lawyer sat on the planning board, I know what we did. Cablevision, Verizon, I just want to, we say this so many times, and then it goes to other council people, deputy mayor, and they spin it around. Let me just say one thing. This gentleman that films our meetings has nothing to do with Verizon, has nothing to do with Cablevision. He is perfectly capable. Should we put the Cablevision feed of taking the same video and putting it into both feeds? By them saying we got rid of Cablevision, nobody got rid of nothing. The high school stopped us using their feed. All right? My goal was to have both. And you know what, Mr. Devine? I appreciate your comments, but I disagree with you on one thing. There is money in the budget this year to put that $10,000 up there because, you know why? We just collected $320-something thousand from Verizon and Cablevision together on January 26th due to the good work and due diligence of Joan, bringing that to our attention. And every year, we get that same $300-some-odd thousand. It's just that the city, and it's not money, Councilwoman Delaney, you said throw money away. Listen, we could spend hundreds of thousands on special events over the course of years. We can't find $10,000 that we already collected on their cable bills to put the meetings on air? Well, give me a break. You know what? And look, it may be working beautiful on computer, but the bottom line is everybody on Cablevision, you're not getting a fair deal. Your Verizon partners or people you know on Verizon, they're getting their dollar's worth. All the Cablevision people, I would call Cablevision, I would complain, I would call our mayor, council people, myself and Mr. Lawyer, put it up for 2 votes. And we did not have 3 successful votes on getting it done. And you know what? It's totally wrong. There's no reasoning for this. It's just mind-boggling, and I can understand the frustration. And as far as Fleischman's Brook, you're right. We don't know. We're arguing as to whose problem it is and who's going to pay for it. Sure, there are things that come up in our budget. But fortunately, through smart redevelopment, when I say smart, what happened on River Road by Garden State Paper? What happened down by Vernado? What happened down right on Outwater Lane and River Drive? These were smart developments. And if I had, when I was the mayor, or when we had a majority, if we had this much opposition to a project, first thing I would do was say, wait, we have to reconsider what we're doing. Because we're not representing the people who elect us. And that's something that's not happening here. And guess what? I don't work for redevelopers. I work for you. And that's the way everyone should feel up here. Because they may have a vision, but their vision is the dollar, okay? My vision is quality of life and doing the right thing in this town. And it's just not happening at this point. The $1,500 fines, we need a follow-up report on that, because if we have a minimum of $1,500, then we have to hear from the courts. We can't approach the courts. The only one that can is our city attorney or our attorney to find out what's really going on, maybe have them make a presentation at our work session and give us an answer. Mr. Sal D'Angelo was here before. Mr. Pinto is aware of it because I ran into Sal. I gave it to Mr. Pinto. He did say that the grass was cut, but I think there's problems finding who owns these vehicles. I'm with the impression that there have been fines levied, tickets issued, so I wish he was here to go over that. Tracy, something's not right, because at minimum, your son should be getting an absentee ballot to your home. You know, if he did vote absentee one year, and the law is that you have to continually get it, somewhere that ballot's floating. And something's wrong. I do know the county is very proactive. I've called down there. I used to be Patty DeCostanza was in charge of that. I'm not sure if she's still there, but they are very aggressive in looking into matters of that sort. Ms. Lopez, I wasn't criticizing the mayor having discussion with you. I was just criticizing the fact that we can't pick and choose the ordinances that we're going to have dialogue on, especially when there's a lot of people that wanted answers. So please don't take it. I think I would always have conversation on ordinances and there are actually hearings. An ordinance, the second reading is a hearing, a public hearing. So in a public hearing, you've got to have a little dialogue back and forth. The free rent. I just want to make sure that everything is perfectly legitimate. When we hear free rent on one side, and then we're hearing that they want an astronomical number of units for being a developer, you know what? There's perception out there, all right? And everything in life, in politics, is perception. If everything is 100% legitimate, it's okay. But I just want an opinion. I want an opinion, and I want it in writing, and if we can't get one from the attorney, then let's go to the state and get an opinion on that, because I just want to make sure that there's no problems whatsoever, and that things are being done the right way. Because it is an exceptional number of units. I've never seen 110 units on a half an acre in Garfield. Never. Fort Lee, yes. Cliffside Park, yes. Powell Park, yes. But we're not there yet. But now we're going to be there because there's nothing to stop it. There is nothing to stop it at this point with tonight's vote. And you know what? I did my best. We tried it. We keep hearing about that one project. It's right behind the VFW. It's actually what it is. It's 2.14 acres. It's 75 units, and it is up for sale, okay? They do have 146 parking spots. So in comparison, that is really a lot better. But just to let you know, it keeps saying that certain council people didn't want this to happen. That's never been the case. We started negotiating this project from the first day. But unlike what goes on now, we didn't let this developer steamroll us. He wanted to put a lot of units there. He wanted density. You know what? We took a position back then. Stanley Moscow was still on the council. We said, you know what? How about townhouses? We were shooting for somewhere between 38 to 42 townhouses. I thought it might have been nice over there. Might have worked with the community, since they're surrounded by one-family homes all in that area. So never did anybody ever say, no, we don't want to work, we don't want to develop. That's not the truth. And I'm getting tired of hearing it from the deputy mayor. No way is it true. And the bottom line is, he bought it for $50,000 from Sketchley in England. He just chose not to clean it up until he got what he wanted. You know, even at the time, our deputy mayor said, let's do away with our redevelopment authority. No, if we would have did away with our redevelopment authority, where would we be today? And I wish he was here, because I'd rather say it right when he's here. All right, they wanted to merge the planning and the zoning board, which you can't do if you have a population of over 16, 17,000, which we do. We have 32,000. So when you hear stuff up here, don't take it for granted that it's true. Bottom line is, I always wanted what's right for the city. Mr. Aloya did, and all the board members that sat on that redevelopment agency. And thank God for the wisdom of that redevelopment agency, because that's what we have today. That's what carried us through the recession. I remember Kurt Healy, our assessor, he says, look, there's a certain point while they're building, we could assess them on River Drive. We needed the taxation. Sure, we were looked at a certain point where the governor cut us $700,000. Governor Christie, $700,000 retro. We were looking at possibly laying off police officers. Not that we wanted to, but Mr. Dutch went through every department. We had to find $700,000 3 months after the fact. All right? The redevelopment carried us because it was smart. They gave $2.8 million for a police station. Down by Venado, they paid $750,000. Some of it went to the city hall. You know, this was smart development. And this was the right development. Not to have people come up here and be totally frustrated. And I'm hoping, you know, well, it's too late to hope. The vote's already taken. So I think the only thing I could do is pray that things, apparently, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be a beautiful thing. People will find parking, and everybody's life will be beautiful over there. But I don't see it. And I would actually bet on the fact that it's going to be so congested. It's going to be a nightmare for the people. So on a better note, I want to congratulate Hispanic Alliance. What a great choice on Mr. Aloya. I will definitely be at the dinner. I want to just decide how many tickets I'm going to get. I know Mr. Quillis wants me to take a table, and I'm going to try to do my best to put a table together. And a great organization, growing every year. I give you, Jesus, and all of your organization a lot of credit. I want to congratulate our police on National Night Out. What a great night. I went to the Housing Authority. They did the same thing, only on a smaller scale. It was a great night there, great night at our city field, very well attended. A lot of people there. It was fantastic. I also want to just say Garfield Junior Boilermakers are starting practice. We have about 175, 180 children, cheerleaders, football players, and we're working up there every night, and hopefully we'll make Garfield proud. So with that, I'm sure I left something out, but not for another night. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to just start off this evening by thanking Gigi for sharing that information with us, and also by saying congratulations to Ms. Castillo and all the recipients of the awards that you'll be giving out that evening, and I look forward to it. I put it on my calendar. I'm glad it's not on a Thursday. I don't have work, so that won't be an excuse. Moving forward, Dolores, you mentioned a resolution being memorialized in a work session. I unfortunately have been having to miss the last few planning board meetings. I would assume I missed that one because I don't recall that happening, and I really hope that it didn't. So that's something that I would like to look into, and I look forward to attending those meetings again starting this month. And I'm very glad to see that you brought in that pot, because I've been having that same issue. So I was glad that the engineer had that explanation for us. And I know some other individuals have made that same complaint. Ms. Dulce, as our clerk, city manager, Councilman Calangelo said, any complaint that you have regarding elections, As they mentioned, the county is on top of it. They don't take that lightly. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for things to come out, but they definitely do look into things. I know the clerk has quite the experience when it comes to elections. He's been around since the 80s, and Ms. Raymond mentioned having identification at the polls, and just having been in classes recently, I have learned that that isn't allowed. So what he said, as far as I know, is true. But I thought that, and I could be wrong, if someone, and he mentioned if you had signed up for a mail-in ballot at a previous election, you could potentially, from that election moving forward, be signed up for mail-in ballots. But I thought, and I could be wrong, if you signed an affidavit at the polls saying that you didn't use that ballot, I thought that you could cast like a provisional vote for them to look into.
Yes.
So just for future reference, if that happens again to your son, having that statement in question for the poll workers, which, yeah, so I would, if that happens, he should have been given a provisional ballot, and that would be the fault of the poll worker who is employed, assigned by the county. So definitely raise that concern if that, if they told him he couldn't. I too would like a report with the fines with the judge. I would love to be utilizing that maximum penalty that we can, which I think is so low because of state mandates, and I personally think should be a lot higher when it comes to illegal housing, because it is certainly a concern here in the city of Garfield. So if we can get a report on that for the next meeting, it would be truly appreciated. Mr. Devine, I do not believe that I offered to volunteer to set up a meeting. I haven't been able to even set up my own green team meetings as of lately. But what I had said was, and I could be wrong word for word verbatim, but if it was something that I was passionate about and really concerned, that I would be taking those steps to set up meetings with the Board of Education. I know that I spoke at a Board of Education meeting closer to the end of the school year, and I said to them about having this partnership. If we can use their feed, please allow us to. If I have, again, from the last meeting in writing that spending this $10,000 is the only way to get on Cablevision, I will vote for spending that $10,000. But if we can save $10,000 for our residents by putting in a little bit of extra effort, that's all that I was getting at with that statement. I had a few other good things that I wanted to share. We have our Italian feast coming up this weekend. I'll be there on Friday night. Hopefully the weather holds out this year. I think that we have a summer concert. I always like to check my phone with dates while I'm sitting up here. So I had a date for this weekend.
No.
Okay.
September.
So there will be a city concert in September. We also have our upcoming restaurant wake, and I want to commend the mayor and the events committee for all the work that they did with that. I know so many other towns that now are so impressed that they want to model that same thing. So thank you to all the businesses involved and everyone that volunteered to put that together. I wanted to highlight Resolution 233, resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into a clinical affiliation agreement with Seton Hall University, et cetera. And I was excited to see an initiative like this because I'm a big supporter of exploring partnerships that promote educational experience and internships. Firsthand experience in our community will truly be an asset. So I commend whoever brought this to our attention. We have our street fair coming up. Again, National Night Out. I have so many straws at home that I just personally bought. So if anyone wants one of these two, feel free to come up here afterwards and take one with you this evening. And congratulations to Fire Company with the new fire apparatus this evening. Always happy to support that. And with that being said, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, Jose, you talked about the transfer station. The Board of Health Inspector has been down there, and she has written them up summons to clean it up and everything like that and get a deodorizer in it. I'm just saying, she's been down there and she's been on their case. On Harry, we're discussing the speeding going on around town. Places like Harrison Ave, Semel Ave, and certain other blocks where there's a long stretch where there's no stop signs and no crosswalks. People do speed, even though the speeding limit is 25. It is a dangerous thing. And, hopefully what happened on Harrison Ave, unfortunately what happened on Harrison Ave, hopefully we'll get the proper, the proper maintenance down there where we could get some, police presence or something down there, speed bump, anything down there to prevent some speeding, because it needs to be done. It's going on all around town. Head Start program by Greater Bergen, that's been in place for about 4 or 5 years prior to the new contract being re-upped. So that's already been going on. They had that building for the last 4 years prior to what's going on now. It's a great program. Right now, there's, I think, seven or eight classrooms. Those will be seven classrooms that will be in trailers behind a school. Some of this discussion should go to the Board of Ed about the Greater Bergen and their contract. I don't know everything about their contract, but I do know that Greater Bergen and the Head Start program has been going on prior to the redevelopment, before they were named the Redevelopment Authority. Now, being named the Redevelopment Authority, they're only in charge of choosing the developer for Passaic Street. I guess that's their goal. I could be wrong, and there may be more to it, but that's what Greater Bergen is in it for now. They're not the developers of Passaic Street. They get to choose the developers. So I don't know what the conflict is, but some of these questions should be directed to the Board of Ed. Congratulations to the Hispanic Alliances, Dre, Papo, Frenchie, and Councilman Aloya. Great choices. It's always a good event, a lot of dancing, eating. It's a good time. It's a good time, and I believe it's at the senior center this year.
No, Royal Manor.
Royal Manor. Wow. So from the VFW to the Royal Manor. Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. Congratulations to even moving up to the Royal Manor. So it's going to be really a great time. Congratulations again. I want to thank, I was at Pastor Brian's multicultural event on Saturday, and it was a good event. Great food, great company, and I met a couple of pastors there. And there's a new church in town on Midland Ave called Changemakers, and I happen to have their brochure. And Pastor Nanny there, that's his name, N-A-N-A, really, inviting gentlemen. And I ended up going to their mass on Sunday from 5 to 7, and you want to get energized and you want to feel something in your bones. You go to one of their, you go to the Changemakers. It's a new church. You go to this sermon, and it's unbelievable. So I want to congratulate them to come into Garfield, and I wish them a lot of luck. I also want to congratulate My Doc. My Doc is the clinic at the shopping center at Walmart. They're under new management. They changed their whole system up. They get involved in the communities. So, maybe the Hispanic Alliance will reach out to them because they're always looking for, to be part of the community. At least that's what they told me the other day. So pay them a visit. Really welcome them. And a student reached out to me. He works for New Jersey Sugar Free. It's an initiative. It's a 501c3 organization where they go around New Jersey and they try to change the healthy drinking habits the unhealthy drinking habits that some of our students have and our residents have. And he wants to take Garfield to be the first town in Bergen County to change the beverages in these soda machines and these other machines that we're selling to our students. Get away from all the sugars and the iced teas and get them just a healthier choices. So New Jersey, sugar-free, looks like we're going to be the first town in Bergen County to push this initiative. It doesn't cost us anything. It's just an educational program, and it's another thing that we're moving forward. With that, meeting adjourned.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Aye. Good night.